Good morning, students. It's Saturday and we are back again on RIPH News. Today, we have a special news about the independence and inauguration of the Third Republic of the Philippines. Miss Belante has the story.
We are live again at the Third Republic Museum. Since July 4, 1946, the independence of the Philippines was highlighted by lowering the American flag and raising the Philippine flag. The museum prepared a hologram to show the presidents and tell their history. Here we have is the former President Manuel Rojas. Let's ask some questions.
I, Manuel Rojas, served as president from 1946 to 1948 with El Picho Quirino as my vice president. I defeated the nationalista Sergio Osmeña and became the third and last president of the Commonwealth. My achievements included rehabilitating the country after the war, securing 25 million in US grant and 10 million from UNRRA, signing the US-Philippine Treaty for military bases, and passing the World Trade Act and Parity Amendment to define economic terms and grant US citizens equal rights in resource exportation and public utilities. I died of heart attack in 1948 of April.
Wow, the hologram feels so real. Next we have former President Elpidio Quirino.
I'm Elpidio Quirino. I was the president from 1948 to 1953. My vice president was Fernando Lopez. The Bell Mission Report was conducted to create an economic institution like the ACCFA and the PACSA. Some infrastructure like the Maria Cristina and the Amboknal Dam project, and in social welfare is the Boys Town of the Philippines was created. And I was able to improve the foreign affairs. But my administration was tainted with accusation of graft and corruption, like the damaging scam on the US war surplus for approximately $50 million, with $20 million in question. It was allegedly used by the Liberal Party for the election campaign. My administration failed to implement the Hukbalaha peace program due to its insincerity.
What a devastating ending. Let's move on to our third president, Ramon Magsaysay.
I was the president from 1953 to 1957. My vice president was Carlo P. Garcia. I was named the man of the masses. I succeeded in the Hukbalahap amnesty program and opened the Malacanang for people. In my time, the formation of SIATO and the Laurel-Langley Agreement was created. The Philippines-Japan Reparation Agreement was signed. The social security system was founded, and the agrarian problems were addressed through the Land Tenure Reform Act. But sadly, I died in a plane crash on March 17, 1957.
For the next president, we have Carlos P. Garcia, who became president after the death of President Ramon Magsaysay and was elected for a full 4-year term in the same year.
I was the president from 1957 to 1961. My vice president was Estado Macapagal. I was known for the Filipino First policy, which favored the Filipino economic interests more than those of America. The austerity program was created for the prevention of abusing the shipment of exports under license and underpricing, and the Bolen-Serrano Agreement shortened the list of the American military base for 25 years and made it renewable every 5 years.
The next president was Diosdado Macapagal. I was the president from 1661 to 1965. My vice president was Emmanuel Pelaez. I propagated the decontrol program, the agricultural land reform law. I officially claimed the Saba and joined the Confederation Mafilindo. I transferred the Independence Day from July 4 to Aguinaldo's June 12. And used the Filipino language in the official documents. And last but not the least was Ferdinand Marcos.
I was the president from 1965 to 1969 and re-elected 1969 to 73. My vice president was Fernando Lopez. During my term, I stabilized government finances through a more effective collection of taxes. I imposed a new tax law, got loans from foreign banks and the government. There also greater production of rice promoting the IR8, hybrid or miracle rice, and the construction of the more irrigation system, a structure, bridge, and road like the North Divisor Road. The Philippines National Railways was improved and their extensive operation against.
And that was the last president present here in the museum. Back to studio.
Thank you, Miss Vilante. It was a good history. And that was the end of our RIPH News today. Remember, have fun reading.
New Tang na mas pinasiksik sa vitamin C, D, and zinc. Para tulungan silang maging strong at ready. New Tang na siksik sa vitamin C, D, and zinc.
The proclamation of martial law is not a military takeover.
September 23, 1972, President Ferdinand Marcos announced a proclamation of martial law after the alleged assassination attempt against Secretary of Defense Juan Ponce Enrile. The martial law resulted in the arrest and detention of much political opposition. Senator Benigno Aquino Jr. and Jose Diokno were among the people who were arrested. They were accused of either being supporter of the rebel movement or communist member. There are imposed curfew in the entire Philippines to prevent rallies and the prohibition of carrying firearms unless authorized. The president instructed a takeover of the different media such as the newspaper, magazine, radio, and television facilities. He also take over the management and operation of the different public facilities. November 29, 1972, the Constitutional Convention was reassembled and resumed work with the anti-Marcos delegates who were detained. The new constitution was finished and Marcos postponed the election and assigned the citizen assemblies to represent the people. January 17, 1973. The Constitution of 1973 was improved by the Citizen Assembly. Therefore, the Constitution of martial law and suspension of the election period for at least 7 years. September 26, 1972. Marcos issued a presidential decree number 2 that declared the country under the Land Reform Program.
October 21, 1972, issues the FIDE number 27 that restrict the land from the scope that the landed rice and corn lands of set of a retention limit of 7 hectares. The Moro National Liberation from MNLF, the Magsomo United Armed Forces clashed with the government official to seek independence under the chairmanship of Nurmi Suari. It resulted casualties on the both sides along the civilian and destruction of facilities. December 27, 1976, the MNLF forces, the Manila government under the Marcos of signed peace agreement known as the Tripoli Agreement. October 16 to 17, 1976, the majority of barangay voters approved the martial law that continued the creation of inter-crime Batasang Pambansa. Consent of National Assembly was also approved. Now the president has the power of become prime minister and can continue exercise to legislative power until martial law lifted. This amendment made the IBP a rubber stamp. January 17, 1981. The martial law was lifted. Numerous establishments were built during martial law, such as the Philippine Heart Center, the National Kidney Institute, and the Lung Center of Philippines. Along this, the numerous infrastructure projects like the San Juanico Bridge, the Bliss Housing Project, and the Light Railways Transit in Metro Manila.
June 16, 1981. Right after lifting the martial law, the first presidential election was held. Marcos ran and won a massive victory of 88%. March 1980, the former Senator Ninoy Aquino suffered an attack due to more than 7 years of imprisonment. he refused to be operated on by the doctors employed by Marcos. Imelda Marcos offered to go to the US with the condition that he would stay and not speak against Marcos. Aquino was operated on Dallas, Texas, and recovered and traveled already for after a month. He spent 3 years of exile with his wife, Cory Aquino, and their kids. 1981 to 1982, Marcos accused Aquino of being the mastermind in the bombing in Metro Manila. August 21, 1983, from Senator Ninoy Aquino returned to the Philippines. He wants to present him with his rationale for the country's return to democracy. But a few steps after leaving the plane, multiple gunshots were heard. Aquino was shot dead in head on the tarmac of the Manila International Airport, while in the custody of Aviation Security Command guards. The country was enraged with the murder of Ninoy. His funeral turned out to be the longest and largest in Philippine history. The death of Ninoy resulted in continuous massive rallies and demonstrations in Manila. 1985. The political and economic instability in the country faced fears that the violent overthrow of the Marcos dictatorship was coming. The foreign news agency began to emphasize the issue of loss of confidence in Marcos.
February 7, 1986. Marcos called for a snap special presidential election to prove to the international community that he still has people's confidence. The KBL party proclaimed President Marcos and Assemblyman Arturo Tolentino as their official candidates for president and vice president. United Nationalist Democratic Party or UNIDO leader Salvador Doy H. Laurel settled for the vice presidency to give way to Ninoy's widow, Corazon Cory C. Aquino, to run for president. In the campaign, President Marcos used all efforts in the use of the guns, goons, and gold to intimidate the voters and support Marcos Tolentino. It is a massive strategy to take and cheat the result of an election. After the election, conflicting results show that Marcos Tolentino won the COMELEC, while on the other hand, Aquino and Laurel were leading in the unofficial count of the National Movement for Free Elections or NAMFREL. 30 of the COMELEC computer operators walked out of the PICC hall with a complaint due to the figures being tampered with and inconsistent, which provoked the citizens. The COMELEC ended the official tally where Marcos Tolentino won the election. It leads to massive protest. Mrs. Aquino called the people to a civil disobedience protest to pressure Marcos to step down. February 16, 1986. Mrs. Aquino along with the 3 million people rallied the Luneta Grandstand for the tagumpay ng bayan. The People Power Revolution began allegedly as an attempted coup by the reform.
February 22, 1986. Lieutenant Michael Aspirin and 18 other soldiers were arrested by the Marine Guard for their unauthorized presence. Fidel Ramos gave a press conference at the Ministry of National Defense at Camp Aguinaldo to announce their withdrawal to support the president. He called upon various military units and the police to support their cause. Marcos also conducted his new conferences, calling Enrile and Ramos to surrender using the Radio Veritas. February 23 to 25. The people continued to pour into EDSA as hours passed, armed only with prayers, rosaries, and the statue of Our Lady of Fatima. The government troops under Brigadier General Artemio Tadyar who attempted to attack was stopped by a human barricade. Even though he threatened them, the crowd did not move. Late afternoon, the rebel helicopter attacked the Villamor Air Base, destroying the presidential vehicles. Another helicopter attacked the Malacanang and caused minor damage. February 25th morning. Cory Aquino was inaugurated as President of the Philippines, with Laurel as Vice President of the Club Filipino in Green Hills. Ramos was promoted to Chief of Staff while Enrile was reinstated with many politicians. Marcos' speech was cut when the broadcast was cut by the rebel troop. Marcos was advised by the White House that exile is a must. February 25th, 6 p.m. The Marcos family was transported by 4 American helicopters to Hawaii. When the new Marcos fight broke out, the people rejoiced, people around the world rejoiced and congratulated Filipinos they knew. Good morning world! We are back again sa ating show na Fast Talk. Today our special guest was President Cory Aquino para magtanong sa kanyang buhay politika. Good morning, President Aquino. Welcome to our show.
Thank you, Mr. Amparo. Napaka-welcoming nyo naman dito.
Ang aking unang katanungan ay, what is the first thing you do after the restore of democracy?
Actually, the first thing I do was to order the release of the political prisoners and restore the writ of habeas corpus in the Region 9 and 12 in Mindanao. Also, the Malacanang was open for public again.
That's good. Marami nga ang nagulat on the how the Marcoses live in luxury for the past 20 years.
The Freedom Constitution was intended as a transitional basic law to ensure democracy, freedom of the people, and an orderly transfer of power. It was a law designed before the drafting of the new constitution.
Nung nakaraan lang ay may pinatupad kang konstitusyon, pwede bang paki-explain neto?
Yes, it was for the drafting of the new constitution. I gave them 3 months, but on the 15th of October 1986, 1 month before the schedule, the commissioners approved the entire draft with a vote of 45-2. Our CONCOM president, former Supreme Court Justice Cecilia Muñoz Pala, led the yes votes.
I heard na you appointed the Independent Constitutional Commission or mas kilala as CONCOM. What is this for?
Yes, thank you. I want to congratulate the new senators and congressmen, along with the new elected Senate President Javita Salonga and the House of Representatives Speaker Ramon Mitra.
The May 11, 1987 was one of the most peaceful and honest elections in the Philippine history.
It was due to the mismanagement and uncontrollable greed of the former government. It leads to foreign debt of more than $26 million. It needed an intensive efforts to attract more foreign investment for economic recovery.
You are selected as Time Magazine Woman of the Year in 1986. What can you tell about it?
I want to take the Time magazine for that. It was when I in my delivered speech in the US Congress about the struggle of Filipino people and restoration of democracy.
I want to ask you about the RA 6657. What is the difference between the PD 27?
Unlike the PD 27 that only covered the private agricultural lands, the CARP covers all the private and public agricultural lands regardless on the crops grown.
Are there co-op attempts during your term?
Yes, marami. One of them happened on July 1986. It is the attempt rival government at the Manila Hotel with Arturo Tolentino as president. In August 1987, the attempt military coup, God Save the Queen, was one of the most serious threats. December 1989, the attempt to attack the Malacanang by the rebel forces with Honasan as the leader.
What are the things you want to ask to our fellow Filipino citizen?
We may face number of natural disasters such as Mount Pinatubo and different problems. We, Filipino, will always stand.
Maraming salamat, Miss President.
Maraming salamat din sa pag-imbita sa akin dito. Malaking karangalan.
And that's all guys. Thank you for watching.